The National Football League has an image problem, yet it seems like nobody in the league really cares. Nobody in the league is really trying to address this situation.
Thank you for having me. I tend to think most of this is more news than true substance. I think we're kind of in a very social media outrage culture, and we're able to take things and accelerate them and make them huge issues when sometimes they were never as important to the masses as it is to media and people with agendas.
But you're a marketing person, you're a PR type person. When you step back and you look at what the NFL has done, and you look at their market share drop, and you step back and you look at what Nike has done, and you look at their market share drop, their stock drop, people burning shoes, you don't view it the way I do, that these are the biggest marketing blunders since New Coke?
No, not exactly. And I believe Nike stock is up again from what I read, at least as of this morning. I think the NFL has a much bigger issue going on, and that's more about the CTE and the concussions, and then people don't believe it's safe. And there's also just so much more media and time spent these days that it's just not resonating the same with the younger generation, and there's like a causational issue. And on the Nike side, I think they basically just chose, it was unnecessary from a risk standpoint, but I think they thought it would bolster their brand, which I think it has done, and they chose to go on what they believe is the right side of history.
All right, so if it's true what you're saying, that the players in the NFL think that this is no big deal, that they have bigger issues to tackle, then why this? Why did the players and the Players Association produce this PSA? Roll tape.
We've all read the headlines, but the true story is that too many Americans suffer from discrimination and institutional racism every day.
Too many are living anything but the American dream, and that affects all of us.
Well, I don't think that PSA is going to move the needle for people who are rejecting the National Football League on Sundays and on Mondays and Sunday night and Thursday and whenever the games are played. And proof of this, I think, has been the ratings over the last 2 years as this controversy has unfolded. And just last night, the opener down 8% over 2017. This is a precipitous drop for the National Football League.
Well, I think the PSA was actually trying to reframe the conversation and put everything back, trying to kind of make everything much smoother and focus on kind of where the kneeling came from. It was never meant to be anti-military. It was never meant to be anti-police. It was just meant to be a form of large stage kind of peaceful protest to kind of bring attention to an issue. So I think the NFL wanted to take a leadership position and show that we're all in this together, and let's try to make things better. I will restate that I think the NFL is just like everything has a wave and brands have a wave. The NFL I think we're past peak NFL as a sport. The NBA is kind of where it's at and where it's growing. So I think that people are easy to kind of conflate what issues are which and try to blame things that aren't exactly the reasons why there is a drop.
Well, the NBA, as far as I know, has a rule that the players will not hide in the locker room. They will stand on the line at attention during the national anthem, but the NFL refuses to do so. But there's also a bigger picture here that I think the NFL is missing. It's not like the good old days, right, when the NFL, say in the 1950s, 1960s, was a blue-collar sport, and blue-collar America could see through their eyes, if you will, and then live vicariously through these NFL players. Not anymore. It's not a blue-collar sport. It's a gold-collar sport. So this plays into what I'm talking about here is the NFL's bigger problem, that it's becoming detached from regular Americans.
Is that true of all sports, or are there certain sports that you think are leaning towards and getting blue-collar? I just think the country is changing, the demographics change, and things have changed from the 1950s. So.
All right, so that brings us to Nike, and I think they have a similar problem getting detaching themselves, really, from average, typical Americans. And so now they have this advertising campaign featuring Colin Kaepernick. It's out there in billboards, and it's out there in video form. Roll tape.
Believe in something, even if it means sacrificing everything. When they talk about the greatest team in the history of the sport, make sure it's your team. If you have only one hand, don't just watch football, play it at the highest level. And if you're a girl from Compton, don't just become a tennis player. Become the greatest athlete ever. Yeah, that's more like it. So don't ask if your dreams are crazy. Ask if they're crazy enough.
Want to see more videos like this? Click on the link below and subscribe to One America News on YouTube, and call your cable provider and kindly demand that One America News is added to your lineup. Call and subscribe today.